The Let's Go Live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet on this beautiful Friday. Of course, we have Rumble, we've got Twitter, we've got Locals, we've got Facebook, we've got Telegram. We're always waiting on YouTube. Sometimes it's a little bit slow, but it looks like we are alive and well, which is tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Govea. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun, deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about Unanimous. Unanimous. I was going to say verdict, but it's not verdict at all. In fact, it is Congress, unanimous in Congress, which is weird. I mean, we never say anything quite like that. Unanimous in Congress, both the House and the Senate came out. They had two big votes today, or two big votes in total. We're going to talk about one of them, both of them involving the COVID origins bill. The text of the bill we will go through today. But for some reason, one of my clips, all right, we got to do a refresh on the screen. Yeah, it didn't capture all my stuff. So let's cue this back up. Oh, there it is. Now look, now it's all there. All right. And so today, the word of the day is unanimous. And so unanimous, as you can see, we're going to go through this bill that was passed, S619, both houses of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives, passed this puppy. And there was a theory that there was going to be one person who voted no. And you can see that here in this GIF, but they ended up switching their vote. They voted yay. And so it was literally nobody who contested this at all. We've got the representative named Michael Turner from Ohio, who gave us a little bit of a speech about why this is such an important bill. We'll talk about that. We're going to hear from Josh Hawley, who is the person who authored the bill over in the Senate. Jim Jordan earlier this week had a very, very interesting sequence of testimony with an individual who was the former head of the CDC or the director of the CDC, and he was fired up. So we've got several minutes of that there. Fauci is upset about that testimony. He said, I know that guy, and I've known him for a long time, and he is totally and factually incorrect, one of those deals. And so we're going to hear Fauci fuming up, upset about it. We will go through the text of the bill, S619, the COVID origins bill, as well as the CBO estimate about what this thing will cost. We'll take a look at that. We'll also go through the White House. Karine Jean Pierre got asked about two questions about this. She was only out there very temporarily. She brought out two other interesting individuals to talk about the budget. They did a pretty terrible job about it, but they were talking about this new massive budget. And sort of after she left, they turned their attention over to this new bill. I mean, unanimous, both houses of Congress. That's crazy, man. Is Biden going to sign it? Well, we'll see what Karine says about it. There was great testimony yesterday that we couldn't get to because of all the J6 stuff, but I want to make sure we hit it a little bit, is Matt Taibbi and Eric Schellenberger both testified in front of Congress about the Twitter files. And there was a lot of really interesting testimony there, all related to COVID, because Taibbi said that the Stanford school was also cooperating with the government to suppress or fast track some things and suppress some other things. And the Taibbi and Schellenberger, they got just blasted in Congress, and they blasted them right back. And so it's very, very satisfying. We'll also take a look at this letter that came out from Representative Brad Wenstrup. He sent it over to the FDA, and he's wondering why the FDA fast-tracked all of this. Why were they so quick to get all this stuff shoved through? Meaning the vaccine. We had Operation Warp Speed and all this stuff, but this is really focused on some Biden administration officials at the FDA who accelerated this process, and some people are saying maybe unreasonably. So the Oversight Committee is going to be asking some questions about it, and we'll get into all of it. And so, my friends, if you want to be a part of the show, the best place to do that, the best place to be, is a member, and to join us at our membership community over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It is a ton of fun. We have a great community there. And if you join up as a member on YouTube, you get a lot of the same features, which is inclusive of our access to our private Telegram group, which is where where the chat never ends. These live streams come and go, and it's sad. It breaks my heart to have to leave you, but we don't now because we have a new Telegram group. No matter if you're a member on Locals or if you're a member on YouTube, we appreciate you joining up so the chat never ends. We also have Field of Greens, and it's a great place to go to get your daily servings of fruits and vegetables. It tastes great. It's real. It's organic. It's not filled with a bunch of garbage. I mean, if you read the ingredients, it's literally fruits and vegetables, and the good stuff too. All the antioxidants, all the extra, metabolizing supplements and nutrients that help you sort of burn weight or burn calories faster and feel healthier, all that good stuff. Fieldofgreens.com. You don't even have to feel bad about eating it because the vegetables want to be eaten. That's why they're here. This is what we do when we get to eat our vegetables together. And so check them out, fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use code Robert to save yourself 15% at checkout. And of course, my former law firm, the R&R Law Group, although I'm no longer there, they are still kicking butt, man. They are in court every day, boots on the ground, helping good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope. And so if you know anybody charged with a crime in the state of Arizona, that is the law firm to call. 480-787-0394. All right. And so let's get right into the meat and potatoes on the program. Oh, but we have a new feature on the show. I don't know how long we're going to keep this feature, but we have, my friends, new camera angles. Boo! Over here. Are we on this camera? We are on this camera. Hey, this is what the rest of the office looks like. So this is the side office. You can see a little bit of a side angle. We also have a top angle. Up here now. Hey, everybody. So we can play around with some camera angles, and so you may see some of that in the show. Little interesting to sort of bounce around from one angle to another. That's the wrong one. It's going to take me some getting used to, as you can see. All right. So we will get into it. And of course, you may see that pop out in the picture-in-picture as well, but kind of fun. All right. We'll see. A lot of fun stuff. All right. Let's get right into the program, my friends. We have unanimous, both houses of Congress agreeing on something. Holy moly. Everybody sit down, take a deep breath. We may never see this happen again in America. There was a theory that there may have been one naysayer. Of course, today we're talking about the COVID origins bill, which passed the Congress, House of Representatives, and the Senate. Holy moly. Both of them? There was a theory that maybe one person was going to vote nay, but it looks like that was just a clerical error. And so this was the final minute of the votes. You can see 2-1, buzzer rings in. This is declassifying information on COVID origin bill. You see the galleys in the House are just waiting. People are waiting there with bated breath. Is this going to pass? There's one guy.
And nearing the end of this vote, the
one guy
remaining is down to 0. Let you know that the House
who's
wrapping
a
up
nay.
their legislative business this week with this final passage vote on a bill requiring the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to declassify information on links between the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China and the origins of COVID-19. The DNI has to make that information public within 90 days of the bill's enactment and submit the unclassified report to Congress. The Senate passed the bill by Senator Josh Hawley by unanimous consent on March 1st.
All right. So you see that one person there, and we don't know what that situation. Oh, just changed. Okay. Just changed right there. So that might have been a joke. There might have been representatives who were sort of joking around with the new guy. They're saying, oh yeah, we're going to go. Yeah, no, definitely. We're voting no on this. Yeah, we're definitely voting nay. They're like looking at each other, sort of smirking. And then that one new guy goes, he's like, I'm voting nay because that's what we're taking a stand for. We're the Democrats. And they're all just snickering in the background. He's actually doing it. He voted no. He voted no. You're kidding me. What an idiot. And then he goes, you guys aren't voting no? You guys didn't vote no? And he runs over there. I'm changing my vote. No, I'm not. I didn't mean that. It was an accident. And he changes his vote. And then it switches right there. You see that? He just, oh, crap. I'm not going to be that only guy. Changes it. And the other Congress, he changed it. What an idiot. All right, he's got to buy drinks tonight. It's Friday. They're having fun over there. All right. So good news. I mean, holy moly. Look, so as we fast forward, they just all of them vote for this thing. When do you ever see that happen in Congress? Almost never. And this was what the Republicans had to say. Representative Mike Turner was the person delivering the opening statement on this thing today. And honestly, I was going to play the Democrats as well, but the Democrats sounded just like the Republicans. It was complete unanimity. There wasn't any real objection at all.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of S-619, a bill that would require the Director of National Intelligence to declassify information relating to the origin of COVID-19. The House companion bill, H.R. 1376, passed unanimously out of the Intelligence Committee. I want to thank my ranking member Hymes for his dedication to bipartisanship and to professionalism as we work together to try to ensure that the Intelligence Committee responds to the needs of the House. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc across the country, with almost every household feeling its effects. The United States death toll from this virus has surpassed 1 million people. Although concrete data is hard to lock down, millions of Americans are suffering from the long-term effects directly attributed to this virus. COVID-19 has also negatively affected our communities, especially our kids. It is becoming increasingly clear that school-aged children face major educational hurdles because of distance learning and long-term school closures. The American public deserves answers to every aspect of COVID-19 pandemic, including how this virus was created and specifically whether it was a natural occurrence or was the result of a lab-related event. The House Intelligence Committee, which oversees our intelligence community, is aware of classified information that could help inform the public why COVID-19 as a lab leak theory is not just a possibility, but approaches the idea that it is likely. The intelligence community does have more information about COVID-19 than the public is led to believe. Much of the information they have can be declassified and disseminated to the public. In fact, the bill we are discussing today would give the American public just a glimpse.
Wow, listen.
Albeit a very important aspect of the classified information the intelligence community holds.
Okay, so that's nuts. So they say that they have a ton of information, that we should see some of it, that it would just be a glimpse. Even if they gave us what they think we should have, it would just be a glimpse, right? It would just be a sliver of the truth, because they are the intelligence agency and they've got so much of it, and we're just, the people. What should we get access to?
S-619, if passed by the House and signed into law, would give the American public a unique insight as to what was happening at a biosafety level laboratory in Wuhan, China, in late 2019 and early 2020. This laboratory and who was working there might be the key to unraveling the truth. For those concerned about declassifying COVID-19 origins information, I can assure you that the intelligence community could release this information while protecting their sources and methods of how it was collected. In fact, I believe the intelligence community could go further than what is called for in S-619 and release most of what it knows about COVID origins, but this is a good start. COVID-19 ranks as one of this century's most important events.
Yeah.
No community was spared, and every corner of the world felt its effects. Everyone deserves to know what our intelligence community knows about, and S-619 is the right step in the right direction. I reserve the balance of my time.
Good points to be made there. And when I was listening to this earlier today, I was literally listening to the Democrats, and he said the same thing. He basically just said it longer. The Democrats did make the point. They said, we don't actually know definitively what the answer is. We don't know whether it is a lab leak or a natural origin. I mean, I have my suspicions here, but they apparently don't. They don't have conclusive facts and they need more data. Okay. But they're still on the same team of, we should have transparency on this. We've all got to release it, and we should allow this to come out for the American public to see. And it is interesting. I mean, it's kind of shocking. When do you see stuff like this? And anytime I see stuff like this, I go, hold on a minute. This is a little bit strange. Feels a little bit fishy, huh? What the heck are they all agreeing for? Are they just ready to declare war on China now? Because we know that sort of how this escalatory path could go, right? One theory would be that if you openly say it came from China and blame China, then China's going to say it is absolutely not China, it's the US. And the tensions that are already sort of, jockeying over one of another continue to compound and escalate. China was very upset we blew their spy balloon out of the sky. Imagine what happens if we say, you caused a global pandemic. I'm not saying that we shouldn't tell the truth on this. Obviously we should, but I'm just saying the point is, the escalation goes up and up and up. And if Congress suddenly is like, yeah, you know what, we should get to the bottom of this now that you mention it. We go, we've been mentioning it for years now. Many of us have gone through the litany of suspensions and other ramifications. We got very little of them here, right? Other people lost their jobs. Other people lost family members because of how this whole thing went down. So it was a catastrophe. We certainly want to know what this led to, but more will be revealed. We'll see. We still have to ask ourselves whether Biden is going to release it. Congress agreed to do it. All right, we're going to see something. I would never expect to see all of the details, right? This is still the intelligence agency. And as they're acknowledging, even this bill is going to give us just a sliver of the details. But we've got more. Josh Hawley, of course, was one of the authors of this thing in the Senate, which is where it passed some time ago. And he was on with Fox News where he was discussing why the American people need to know all this stuff.
Yeah, we sure do, Sean. And that is why the American people deserve to see what their government knows about the origins of COVID, because we had people like Dr. Fauci, nobody more than Dr. Fauci, who went out there and said, oh, no, this could never have come from a lab. In fact, if you think that you are a crazy conspiracy theorist, you should be taken off of social media. You shouldn't be allowed to say that stuff in public. And as it turns out, our own government has known for some time that it likely came from a lab. So let's declassify it. Let's let the American people see everything that the government has got on the origins of COVID, and let's hold people like Dr. Fauci accountable for their lies.
Yeah, yes, that's great, man. And here it's been like Christmas in March. Yesterday, we get this discovery that Kevin McCarthy is going to release all 41,000 videos, or do his very best to do that. Now the U.S. government is releasing, or presumably on the verge of releasing, a lot of the details about COVID. We're going, this is crazy. Where are we getting all this sudden transparency from? Where is this all coming from? Is it the Republicans or is it something else? We don't know. But Jim Jordan was very, very fired up when he had a COVID hearing previously earlier on this week. There was a former director from the CDC. His name was Robert Redford, I believe. We're going to hear from him in a minute. He's trying to get his clip up here. Several people here. Jim Jordan is asking about Fauci, asking about gain of function, asking about how this process unfolded, and questioning former individuals who were involved or familiar with the processes.
But here's the question I keep coming up with. If it may have been a lab, may have been nature, we're supposed to look forward, then why did Dr. Fauci work so hard for just one of those theories? Why was it so important to push one over the other? Dr. Barrett said, we should entertain all hypotheses. Dr. Fauci had his hypothesis, how this started. We should entertain all of them. But that's not what happened. That is definitely not what happened. 3 years ago, if you thought it came from a lab, if you raised that, you were
illegal,
called a nut job. You got
arrested,
censored on Twitter. You were blacklisted on Twitter. You were even called a crackpot by the very scientist who in late January sent emails to Dr. Fauci and said it came from a lab. They called you crackpot. Is that right, Dr. Redfield?
Redfield.
I think the most upsetting thing to me was the Baltimore.
Redfield, not Redford. He's that terrible actor who, I think he's actually a good actor, but he's just kind of a political idiot.
Son calling me a racist because I said this came from a Wuhan lab.
Dr. Redfield, you ran the CDC and you were on the coronavirus task force. Is that right?
Correct.
That was formed on January 29th. 2020, is that right?
Correct.
2 days later, Dr. Fauci gets an email from Dr. Anderson, which says what? Virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding.
Next day, I know. Did he share that email with you, by the way, Dr. Redfield?
No.
As a member of the task force, as the head of CDC, did he share that email with you?
No.
Okay. Next day, February 1st, Dr. Gary sends Dr. Fauci another email. That email says, I don't know how this happens in nature, but it would be easy to do in a lab. Did he share that email with you, Dr. Redfield?
No,
you didn't see either one of those emails, even though you're head of CDC, even though you're on the coronavirus task force that had been formed just 3 days earlier.
No.
3 days later, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary, who told us it came from a lab, in emails to Dr. Fauci that Dr. Fauci wouldn't let Dr. Redfield see. 3 days later, they changed their position 180 degrees. The question is why? Mr. Wade, why would they change their position that fast when the only intervening event is a conference call with Dr. Fauci, the guy who wouldn't let Dr. Redfield see the very emails that they had sent him, Dr. Redfield, head of CDC, on the coronavirus task force. Why would they change their position, Dr. Wade or Mr. Wade?
Well, this question does lie at the heart of the issue. What is pertinent, it seems to me, is there's no new scientific evidence that we can see that came available between these dates, the January 31st and Feb 4.
Right. There's no new. I think you're. Go ahead.
So you have to ask if there were other kinds of influence available. Now, it is true that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Farry in London were very powerful research officials, and between them they control.
I read your testimony. I saw that. Yeah.
So
why don't you cut to the chase and tell them what you really think was the reason?
I don't know what the reason was.
I know what it was. Go ahead. I'll let you say, because I read your testimony. I think you said it in your testimony too. Maybe you're reluctant to say it here, but go ahead.
Well, if you're looking at the timeline on May 21st, just a few weeks after the Nature Medicine article had come out, two of the signatories of the original email to Dr. Fauci, that's Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary, were awarded a $9 million grant for the.
So there's 9 million reasons why they changed their mind. I knew you'd get to it. I read that last night. 3 months after. So 3 days after they say it came from a lab, they changed their position, and the only intervening event's a conference call with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins.
Weird.
Again, a call that Mr. Redfield was not allowed to be on, the head of CDC and on the coronavirus task force. And then 3 months later, shazam, they get $9 million from Dr. Fauci.
Weird.
Well, isn't that something?
Yes, shocking.
Isn't that something? That's why we want to talk to these guys. That's why Chairman Wenstrup wants to bring in Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary and ask them a series of questions so we can get to the bottom of this.
That's all.
So we can move
Totally
forward
legitimate.
and deal with this. Now, here's the key question. Look, I'm just a common sense guy from Ohio.
Shout out to Ohio.
In wrestling in college, but I got a degree in economics. You're supposed to get a degree when you go to college. I got one in economics.
He was a wrestler?
One of the things they tell you about is a thing called opportunity cost.
He was a wrestler? Let me see those ears. Let me see them. Yeah, all right.
So when you're spending your time making sure that the country believes only one of these theories, you could have been doing what Dr. Redfield was doing in our government, trying to figure out how we deal with this virus. And what was Dr. Fauci doing? He was trying to cover his backside, and everybody knows it. And that's the part that ticks us off, because this is the highest paid guy in our government getting all kinds of money to tell us things that were not accurate. Because we now know U.S. tax dollars went to a lab in China, a lab that was not up to code, a lab that was doing gain-of-function research, and that's where this thing most definitely came from. And Dr. Fauci had to prove, no, you can't have that news getting out. And that's why he did what he did, to the exclusion of a brilliant guy running our CDC, kept him out of the loop. Keeping him out of the loop probably potentially could have harmed America. That's the thing that ticks us all off. And that's why, Mr. Chairman, this hearing is so darn important, and we get to the bottom of really what happened. I yield back.
All right, somebody get him a glass of water. Whew, that's some good stuff there, Jim. Love that. All right, so he's fired up, and he's very interestingly connecting the dots for us. We've got this relationship with Fauci and other people, and weird phone calls are happening, and he's not invited on one phone call, and then something changes after the phone call. Who's on the call? Check the calendar invite. It says AF. Who's AF? Who could that be? Aaron, Amber, Anthony Fauci. Oh, that was him. Oh, so you talked with Anthony Fauci, and then the day after that phone call, everything changes, and you see money, $9 million, go back over to the entity after the phone call to change their position on it. Wow, that sounds pretty bad. And Jim Jordan is delivering that testimony from somebody who seems pretty credible, not the actor Robert Redford, but Redfield, who was former director for the CDC. So pretty credible testimony, pretty amazing. And no, I did not know that Jim Jordan was a wrestler. Apparently he was a state champ, which means you're probably pretty dang good if you're a state champ. I was never a state champ, so he probably mopped the floor with me. Well, a lot of people, could back in those days. Anyways, the point is, so Jim Jordan is fired up, going to the mats in Congress, which is, of course, very, very enjoyable. Now, after that testimony, we turn our attention over to Fauci, and Fauci is not happy with his friend, Mr. Redfield, who was apparently somebody he's known for many, many years. And he says, I can't believe that he said that stuff about me. He's a liar. And I'm very honest, I am science. I saved America. I saved the world, all hail Fauci, blah, blah, blah. He says that everybody else who disagrees with him is totally and completely wrong, whatever.
So let me ask you about what Dr. Robert Redfield is charging, that you froze him out, that you didn't want him there, you didn't want him at these meetings, and that was deliberate.
Neil, I really feel badly about that because
Yeah.
I know Bob a long time. He is totally and unequivocally incorrect
Totally and
in what he's saying, that I excluded him. I had nothing to do with who would be on that call. That call was organized by a group of evolutionary virologists in order to discuss the possibility that this might actually be a virus that was actually engineered. So I didn't put anybody on the list of that call, nor did I take anybody else. So it's really unfortunate that in a public setting like the hearing that Dr. Redfield made that absolutely incorrect statement. The other thing he said that's interesting,
Doctor,
Neil,
who would
he
be
said,
on
no,
that
but
call?
Neil,
Did you decide to be on that call, or did these other virologists?
Neil, I just said it. I didn't have anything to do about the decision who would be on the call. The evolutionary virologist, Dr. Eddie Holmes, Christian Anderson, all of the others that were on, they made the decision who's on the call. I didn't add anybody to the call,
So you
nor
didn't
did
know
I
going
extract
into the call,
anybody from the
Doctor,
call.
you didn't know going into the call that the CDC director would not be part of that call. Do you think he should have been?
Well, I mean, retrospectively, it would have been okay to have him on the call, of course.
Yeah, so you didn't check your calendar, invite Dr. Fauci, and you didn't say, I wonder who else is on this call. Okay, everybody does that. We all say, well, okay, who's going to be on this call? Oh, that guy's an idiot. Oh, great. Hopefully he's not talking. All right, okay. Who's there? Who else is there? All right, I got a family emergency that day. I'm not going to be there. Fauci's like, he's like, I got CNN that day. I've got MSNBC that day. Jen Psaki's coming over later, and she's bringing Karine Jean Pierre. What? All right. So anyways, so this is going on, and now he has to respond to all these allegations. I just had that image of Psaki and Karine. Oh gosh, I have to play this clip.
But I didn't put him or take him off. And it's really disturbing that in a public hearing of a congressional hearing, he makes an accusatory statement that has no basis whatsoever in reality. But another point, Neil, that's important. He said in his own mind that he was kept out because he was of the opinion that this might be a lab leak. Half the people on the call were of the opinion that it might be a lab leak. So his rationale of why he thought he was excluded is an invalid rationale. So it's really unfortunate that he made those statements. He's a good guy. I've known him for years.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I mean, I'm just really a little bit disturbed about why
I'm
he said that, which it was completely untrue.
Man. I'm heartbroken. I can't even take it. I'm heartbroken. He hurt my feelings after he excluded him out of the whole stinking meeting. So that's Dr. Fauci. Weird dude. Doesn't even look at his calendar. Doesn't have any idea who's coming over and what's going on. So you can see, we're going to start to see the knives come out both directions, and it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of people who couldn't come out and speak against the sainted, knighted hero of the world, Fauci, they're going to start being able to voice themselves a little bit more. Redfield and others are going to be able to come in front of Congress, the Oversight Committee, the COVID Committee, and they're going to know they've got a little bit more room, a little bit, of a bigger force field to protect them and give them some cover to get out there and tell us all the truth about what has been happening. So good news, the bill did pass. Now let's take a look at what this puppy actually does before we go over to the White House and before we turn our attention back over to Congress and check in with what happened during the Twitter files hearing, and where there was a lot of censorship involving COVID as well. We're going to hear from Taibbi Schellenberger. We've got this wild clip from this Representative Garcia. We'll go through the full thing. It's a ton of fun. But let's carry on with understanding what is actually in the bill itself. The bill is here. Senate Bill 619, titled, "The Director of National Intelligence will be required to declassify information related to the origin of COVID." Boom. Signed off on in the Senate by Hawley, Braun, Marshall, Lee, Scott of Florida. Introduced, it was read twice, it was considered, it was read the third time, and it was passed. Boom. A bill to require the Director of National Intelligence to declassify information related to the origin of COVID-19 and for other purposes. Be it enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives that Congress assembled, entitling this act COVID Origin Act of 2023. In Section 2, they write, "It is the sense of Congress," at least they found some of it, "that identifying the origin of COVID is critical for preventing a similar pandemic from occurring in the future." Every single congressperson in the United States, all the senators, all the House of Representatives agreed with this bill. There is reason to believe that COVID-19 may have originated at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. They say that it's the sense of Congress that the Director of National Intelligence should declassify and make available to the public as much information as possible about the origin of COVID, so that the US and like-minded countries, people who want maybe to avoid this happening again, can identify the origin of COVID as expeditiously as possible. Use that information to take all appropriate measures to prevent a similar pandemic from occurring again. They say Congress has the sense that all this is important. And so accordingly, they write not later than 90 days. Okay, so mark your calendars, my friends. Woo, like a quarter away? We can wait. Okay, we can wait that long. Okay, all right. So Biden signs this. This is going to land on his desk like over the weekend. We're going to hear what Karine Jean Pierre has to say about it. But 90 days after the date, the Director of National Intelligence shall with an S, 1, declassify any and all information related to the potential links between Wuhan and the origin of COVID, including activities performed by the Wuhan Institute of Virology on or on behalf of the PLA, the People's Liberation Army. So I don't know what version we would get this stuff in, whether it's going to be a PDF, whether they're just going to put it on a Post-it note and they're going to say, here you go, America. Here's a Post-it note. Enjoy it, with probably 3/4 of the Post-it note redacted. Here you go. Or is it going to be something substantive? We don't know. But here's what they're saying we're going to get. Activities performed by Wuhan on behalf of the PLA, coronavirus research performed at the lab before the outbreak. They want to know the names, symptoms, dates. They want to know the roles of all the researchers who fell ill in the fall of 2019. Names, like they want names, right? Names, symptoms, dates, all the data. If our US government has it in their dossier, well, they got to give it out. Whether the researcher was involved with or exposed to the coronavirus, that particular person, whether the researcher visited a hospital while they were ill, whether they went to there and they said, I've got a sniffle, can you help me? Turns out they got COVID. A description of other actions taken by the researcher that may suggest that they were experiencing symptoms. They want all of this submitted as an unclassified report to Congress that contains all the information that we just talked about, and only limit redactions as necessary to protect the sources and the methods. That's it. Pretty simple. That's the full bill. We got 90 days. So this is going to land on Joe Biden's desk, and we're going to see what he does about it. The bill costs basically nothing. The CBO published this on March 6th. They say, okay, the COVID Origins Act, what's it going to cost? Not much. It would require the Director of National Intelligence within 90 days to enact, after enactment, to declassify and report on Congress everything. They say the CBO estimates that the bill would cost less than $500,000. That's tip money. That's like a lunch field trip for a couple Congress people. Such spending would be subject to availability of the appropriated funds. Enacting the bill would not affect direct spending or revenues. Therefore, pay-as-you-go procedures don't apply. This was reviewed by all of us. So no real reasons why this can't move forward. Now, the question, of course, is going to be whether Karine Jean Pierre has any information about whether the president is going to sign it. Now, the bill has landed on the president's desk. He's often in Congress. He's often in Delaware over the weekends. And so we'll take a look at what they have for us over at the White House, because the media wants to know, Karine, are you going to be signing this? Yes or no? We'll get there in one quick minute right after we talk about being ultra healthy, because when we listen to Karine, we have to be fortified and healthy and well. And the way that we do that is by going over to fieldofgreens.com, where you can get your real organic superfood, because we would all love to lose those leftover pandemic pounds, but we are all sick of those weight loss pill and fad diet advertisements. We've all been there. We've all done that. We've seen it. They don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that and the weight probably just starts falling right off. But vegetables, not a fan. And, fruit, who's got time to prepare that all day, every day? You don't. So let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula of specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. We know that proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you can burn calories the faster way and lose weight healthier. And Field of Greens is the only product that's backed by a better health promise. You're going to look healthier. You're going to feel healthier. But the best proof is going to come at your next checkup when the doctor says, my goodness, you've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Grab yourself this real organic superfood at fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. The vegetables want to be eaten. You're going to be feeling great, bursting with green energy at fieldofgreens.com, code Robert. All right. And so let's get right back to it, my friends. Now, the White House, they are waking up with this bill slapped on their desk, Senate bill, whatever it was, 619. And 619 is going to be unveiling some very pertinent information to the rest of the world, including what the U.S. government, in this case, the Director of National Intelligence, what they think about the origin of COVID. Now, you and I definitely want to know about it. We want to make sure we have questions answered about whether the U.S. government was involved, the extent of the funding of the NIAID, how much of that money went over to EcoHealth Alliance and then back over to Peter Daszak and then funding research in Wuhan, right? Follow the bouncing ball. Where does this chain start? Where does it end? So that we can have accountability and make sure that this never happens again. That's on causation. I also want an inquisition for the people who brought in the repercussions after the fact. I want to know who caused it, and I want to know the people who thought it was appropriate to impose upon all of us their will, right? Both sides of this are important. And the people who are utilizing the government to trample upon our constitutional rights should also not escape justice. In this case, the question is about Biden. Are you going to sign this bill? Because if they do, we know that the Chinese are going to respond to this and they're going to say, we didn't have anything to do with COVID. It's your fault. You started it. And so the concept of strategic ambiguity often makes sense for the people in charge. They'd rather not have this answered at all. So what happens if Joe Biden does, let's say, veto this thing? He says, I'm not going to sign it, and he just lets it expire or just turns it away. Would Congress overrule him and pass it anyways? And if he didn't just sign this automatically, why would that be? Both houses of Congress wanted this thing done instantly. So why is there even a question about this? Like, shouldn't this be signed already? More or less? Let's see what the White House has to say about it.
2 quick questions. Will the president sign the legislation that would declassify information about the origins of COVID?
So look, I know that it was just passed, if I remember correctly, it was just passed out of the House today, right?
This morning, yeah.
So
good
we're
job.
taking a look at the bill. We have continued to share information, as I've mentioned many times before, with members of Congress. And as you know, the first few months of the president's administration, he came into office. He directed the intelligence community to declassify information, assessing COVID origins, and to make that report public to the American people, because we know and he understands how important it is to get to the bottom of COVID origins. We will continue to use every tool to figure out what happened here, while also protecting classified information. Again, we're going to take a look at the bill. I just don't have anything to share on how we're going to move forward at this time.
We just read the bill. It's not even that complicated. ODNI, 90 days to release it, assemble all the data, put it in an unclassified report. It's like 3 pages. We just read the whole thing. And most of it's just blank spacing. So it's not that complicated. You knew that they were doing this. The Senate passed it a long time ago. When the Senate passed this, you should have said, uh-oh, that's not good because the Democrats control the Senate. That means if the Senate passed it, the Republicans in the House are probably going to pass it too. So why didn't you look at the bill? And she comes out, what bill? Oh, the COVID bill. What are you talking about? Oh my gosh, that was this morning. You're kidding me. The COVID origins bill was this morning, I think, is when they passed it. Oh, wait, let me check my notes.
I know that it was just passed, if I remember correctly, it was just passed out of the House today, right?
Yeah,
So we're taking a look
today.
at the bill
Oh yeah, COVID bill. Oh yeah, that bill.
at this time.
Also passed it unanimously. So why would President Biden not something that
Here, it's passed unanimously by both houses. It's not even controversial. Everybody in the whole world wants this to happen. Why doesn't Biden just sign it?
Classified information. Again, we're going to take a look at the bill. I just don't have anything to share on how we're going to move forward at this time.
also passed it unanimously? So why would President Biden not something that literally got no opposition and comment?
I totally understand.
one.
It is the right of the President of the United States to look at the legislation that is going to be coming before him. And
Nobody's
we'll have more to
asking
share.
about that.
Question.
It's the president's right to look at the legislation. We know that. It's really simple. Did he look at it? Is he going to sign it? What are you guys doing on this? Or maybe they just want to stall because it is not good for them if they come out and they say yes to this thing and then suddenly it turns out China had a lot more to do with this and maybe they're letting on. And the other thing about this is there's some skepticism that naturally bubbles up out of me anytime the Uniparty acts swiftly to do anything. Okay. Prior examples of this is when they pass raises for the debt ceiling, when they pass financial measures to go and gobble things up like the troubled assets relief and all of this stuff. They just act quickly, and they almost have no debate over it. You start to ask yourself why that is. Who is that serving? Is that really serving us, or is it serving them, or what's the deal here? I don't necessarily know. But maybe they just do know. Maybe they just know that the intelligence is clear. It's unequivocal. They all say, yeah, there's nothing even to quibble over this stuff, right? It came from China. This is the chain of evolution of the funding of the people who are working on this, the research, all of the essentially chain of custody for who gave the money to whom and where it went and how it went there. So maybe that's why they're just gung-ho about this, because they know it's a resounding win for everybody. But if it is a resounding win for the US, that means it's a resounding loss for the Chinese. And so if you're concerned about a second front opening up in World War III, well, maybe that is a little bit of a complicated path for you to go on. And, you can even ask yourself, what would Trump do in a position like this? Like if Trump were still president, well, we know what he would do. So that's a bad example. But even another Republican, president, Trump would say, we're going for China, and he'd go out there and we'd do something, probably wouldn't even be in this situation in the first place. But you get the picture. Even if another Republican was up there, I'm wondering if they would have a strong incentive to prevent just the accusation, because it causes a problem for them that they don't want to deal with. They don't want to open that can of worms. They'd rather just leave it in this gray area, this strategic ambiguity. They'd love to facilitate a direct split in the U.S. government. Well, the FBI and the DOE, the Department of Energy, all say that it came from China or from a lab, but the others don't. And so now it's a 50-50 split. We don't know. We can never answer any questions about this, and we'll just leave it there. Right. And then the U.S. doesn't have to point fingers at China. China doesn't have to point fingers back, because if that happens, then maybe the Chinese turn around and they say, oh, okay, you think we started COVID? Well, that's fine. We're just going to go take over Taiwan now. What are you going to do about it? And Biden's going to have to deal with that. And so, maybe he wants to. Maybe that's why this is escalating. Who knows? Here's another question following up. Karine, this is a very important issue. We all are kind of wanting to know about this. It wasn't a minor blip. We're not just going to forget about COVID. We are still suffering the consequences of it. So is he going to sign this? And is he going to have a timeline for us on when he will either sign it or give us answers about his decision?
Thanks. I just want to emphasize there's high interest in knowing if he will sign the bill to declassify the working scope. Do you think you'll get an answer by the end of the day?
We're going to look at the bill. I can't give a timeline. That's something that our team here has to take a look at the bill that has been, as you know, has been gone through Congress, and just take a look at it and we'll get back to you all. I don't have a timeline on that.
No timeline.
The comments.
Oh, you can see her notes there. That's an interesting angle. Can't see the text on there, though. Interesting. All right. So that's what the White House is saying about it. Useless, as usual. No actual information. We don't have anything to tell you about it. I don't even know what she's there for. All right. So that is Karine Jean Pierre. Now, there is more. In Congress, we had Representative Brad Wenstrup, who is very interested in learning more about the FDA and the FDA's role in just sort of hurrying through some of the protocols for the pandemic. And we'll talk about those in more detail. Now, this isn't even about necessarily the jab itself. This is about the licensing procedure that the process went through in order to approve the jab, more specifically about how quickly this all evolved. And so we're going to get there in a minute because the House Oversight Committee is sending a letter to the FDA saying, we got a lot of questions about all this stuff. We'll go through that one in detail. But the letter comes from this guy on your screen. His name is Representative Brad Wenstrup, and he was a part of hearings this week as well. There were so many of them, we couldn't even cover all of them. But he talked at about this time about EcoHealth. And so this is where he's explaining that bouncing ball and about EcoHealth Alliance and about Fauci and about all of the collusion, all of the involvement that went into this narrative that this was a natural thing, that we couldn't even talk about the origin at all. It becomes pretty clear from these congresspeople that they can see how it all actually worked.
And the Wuhan Institute from this very ban. Records show that the National Institutes of Health allowed EcoHealth to conduct risky research on novel coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute without going through the Potential Pandemic Pathogen Department level review board. Records show that EcoHealth violated federal grant policy and failed to file its 5-year progress report for more than 2 years. Records show that EcoHealth violated the terms of its grant and failed to report an experiment that resulted in gain of function of a coronavirus at the Wuhan Institute. Fourth, for some reason that we do not yet know, leaders in the scientific community took action to attempt to convince the world that they should not take the lab leak theory seriously. Dr. Francis Collins stated he was more concerned with harm to international harmony than he was with investigating the lab leak. Dr. Fauci said the lab leak theory was a shiny object that will go away in time.
Wow.
The president of
'Cause that
EcoHealth,
served him,
Dr.
yeah.
Peter Daszak, orchestrated a letter in The Lancet that called the lab leak a conspiracy theory, a statement that directly benefited Dr. Daszak himself.
Yeah.
And
very
four
curious.
scientists, after a conference
Conflict
call
there?
with Dr. Fauci, completely reversed their position. Dr. Christian Andersen said he found the genome inconsistent with evolutionary theory. And Dr. Robert Gary said he really can't think of a possible natural scenario, but a few days later published a paper saying the exact opposite.
Wow.
A paper based on the new emails we released claimed to be prompted by Dr. Fauci himself.
Wow.
And fifth, the intelligence. FBI Director Christopher Wray confirmed
All bought
publicly that
off.
the FBI assesses COVID-19 most likely originated from a lab incident in Wuhan.
All of them bought off.
And the Wall Street Journal reported the Department of Energy now also believes a lab leak is the most likely origin.
So that's Brad Wenstrup. Now, he is very on top of this. He sent a letter over to the FDA asking for a ton of details about this, and it was a very interesting letter. So let's take a look at it. Drafted March 10th, 2023, out of the Congress of the United States. You see, the letter is coming from Mr. Brad Wenstrup, the chairman of the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, along with a bunch of other people from Congress. So we've got Lisa McClain, we've got John Joyce, MDs, a lot of doctors on this subcommittee. Here's another MD, Ronnie Jackson, you know him. Marjorie Taylor Greene, shout out, is on the committee. And so they're all here demanding the FDA give them some answers about the following. They write, Dear FDA Commissioner, Mr. Califf, the Select Subcommittee on the COVID pandemic is investigating COVID, and in particular, the vaccine approval and the regulatory processes, and any attempts by outside entities to wrongly influence those processes. You know, it's because the FDA is supposed to care and protect us and all the stuff. Now, they say, according To new internal US FDA communications, this is the Congress speaking, it appears that the Biden administration may have bypassed or wrongly compressed and even possibly compromised the longstanding process for awarding a full biologics approval to a vaccine. This effort may have not been to have saved lives, but concernedly to provide cover for implementing and enforcing vaccine mandates across the country. Now, again, I want to point out in this video clip, in this statement here, that we are not talking about the efficacy of the vaccines at all in any way. This is talking about the licensing proceeding through the FDA proceeding. So for YouTube reasons, right, I'm telling you, follow the CDC guidelines, and they care about you. They love you. They're, very competent, very intelligent people over there. Just do whatever they say. They've taken us very nicely through this pandemic. All right. So the point is, this is about the process, the licensing process, what the FDA did. And they're saying, there's rules you have to follow in order to go through this stuff. So that's what the House Oversight Committee is talking about, just so that we're clear for our YouTube censors. Now, on May 7th, they say that Pfizer and biotech, they initiated a rolling submission of their application, right? This is called a BLA application. Now, on July 16th, the FDA granted review for Pfizer with a public goal for approval. They go through all the dates. They say the FDA publicly said its goal for approval was January 2022, but privately it said September 15th, 2021, 4 months earlier. They're wanting to know why. They think that the Biden administration cut corners to approve the vaccine even faster. They say this process is concerning. Now, somebody named Dr. Gruber, whose last name is a little bit too familiar, well, and a little concerning. I'll tell you right now, he's not involved in COVID. I have no idea what happened with the origin, all right? But that last name's a little bit too close to home. So Dr. Gruber expressed concerns with the condensed timeline for approval. So somebody complained about it. Dr. Gruber said that this is like less than half the time that we typically do these things. She wrote, I pointed out the very important regulatory issues that need to be settled. Yeah, including evidence of increasing problems in young males, right? She's finding this in the regulatory process. And so then they are saying they still push for a quick approval at the FDA. And so the House administration is saying, we've got to get to the bottom of this. Now, the Biden administration's political interference in the approval process is a recurring theme. They say last Congress, the Select Subcommittee wrote to the FDA requesting information about potential political interference with the approval process. In the letter, we inquired into Biden's announcement that whether the booster would be available. All right, so you get the point. A lot of this is very regulatory, and it's a little bit of heavy lifting here. But here's what they're asking for, okay? This is the House Oversight Committee. They want information about a memo from doctors Marion Gruber, Philip Krause, all the documents, all communications from the CDC and the EOP, Executive Office of the Presidency, and all of these other things. Now, I'm not sure that they're going to get really any of this stuff. Here's who they want it from. They want it from, yeah, here you go. So Dr. Marion Gruber was former Office of Vaccine Research and Review. All of these looks like government people. They say our committee is authorized to investigate this stuff, and we'll follow up. Call us. So this is Congress sending a letter over to the FDA, again, about the process, about how quickly they sort of shove this thing through. And in that, they're going to get some answers about maybe why it was escorted through. Why does it feel like it got accomplished faster than maybe it should have, jumping through all of these additional hurdles? Is it political? Is it a conflict of interest? Or is it just normal? Are there emergency powers that allow the government to do that? We don't know. But they are going to continue to follow up. We'll see what the FDA has to say about it. But you saw that one of the first letters in there, or the first sentences, was asking about third-party entities, outside providers who may have facilitated the government's response to the pandemic. And Taibbi, we have read almost all of the Twitter threads. We still have one more that we have not gotten to yet, which we're intending to get to. But Taibbi and Schellenberger, Dr. Schellenberger, were called in front of Congress and they were asked a bunch of questions about the pandemic and what they have found in their investigation into the Twitter files. And you remember that Twitter was ground zero for many people on social media where they were suspended, where they were suppressed. It was their home base. We were on YouTube, but others were on Twitter and they got their entire accounts nuked. You know, we got strikes, we got suspended, and we had to deal with our things. But Elon didn't buy YouTube, unfortunately. He bought Twitter. And so Taibbi and Schellenberger all went in and were able to rummage through the files and unveil what we saw was massive collusion between the US government and the employees of Twitter. And so Taibbi was brought in front of Congress and he was asked about all of this stuff. And one line of questioning involved Stanford, the school, where apparently a bunch of smart people go. They say that Stanford was brought in to collude with the government to create these partnerships that would be used to suppress information about the vaccine. Here is what Taibbi said in Congress.
Just quickly, we found just yesterday a tweet from...
That volume is about as low as it possibly can get, so let me change that for us here.
The Virality Project at Stanford, which is partnered with a number of government agencies on Twitter, where they talked explicitly about censoring stories of true vaccine side effects and other true stories that they felt encouraged hesitancy. Now,
censoring true.
Yeah, so they use the word true 3 times in this email. And what's notable about this is that it reflects the fundamental misunderstanding of this whole disinformation complex, anti-disinformation complex. They believe that ordinary people can't handle difficult truths. And so they think that they need minders to separate out things that are controversial or difficult for them. And that's totally contrary to what America's all about, I think.
Yeah, because they think we're too stupid to understand what's true and what's not, what's actual info and what's not, what's credible and what's not credible. They think that some person working at Twitter with a dashboard and some metrics and a manual are going to be competent enough to gauge the discourse of America, or that they should be entitled to do it, or that their algorithms are entitled to do it, or that they should take their directions from the FBI and the Executive Office of the Presidency. And so Stanford is working with the government and others are working with the government to suppress stories. They don't want you to even talk about it. Not in this case, they're saying that the stories are true, but they just don't want you to see it because it might contribute to your hesitancy, and they're going to make the judgment for you about whether that's a good decision for you or not.
I'll just briefly add, this is very disturbing because what they're doing when they're putting these labels on there is they're actually also trying to discredit you. So it's not just, it's a form of censorship, but it's also a disinformation campaign.
It is a disinformation campaign. They're trying to stop you from knowing the truth, unfortunately. And they're telling you it is the truth because they've made the decision about what is true and what is not. And that is the opposite of what free speech is in America. So this interview continued. Now, the Congresspeople were very upset with them, and it was hysterical to watch. And this was one example of a congressperson who I think is new. I'm not sure, but let's listen in.
The FTC has extraordinarily serious concerns about Twitter's handling of consumers' data.
That's right. So just to set up this clip a little bit, Elon bought the company, and so he gave access to Schellenberger and to Taibbi and many others to come in and take a look at the files and say, hey, why don't you look at our Slack channels? Why don't you look at our emails? Why don't you kind of see what was going on here? And what they found was a bunch of disgusting collusion. They saw the government putting their big fat boot on the neck of a private institution to collude them into censoring other Americans. Now, in this case, Twitter was ideologically in alignment with the FBI and with the DOJ and all the people who wanted to stop the MAGA Trumper insurrectionists from taking hold of America. So they were perfectly okay censoring things. But when Elon opened up the box and gave them all the access to all of these emails, now the Congress is saying, we look terrible. We look like idiots. All of our side, both of our sides were asking for censorship. Democrats and Republicans were doing it alike. They're very upset about this. And they say, wait a minute, what can we do to stop this from happening again? The last thing that we want are journalists going in and looking at what the FBI was sending to private companies. These are kids who got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and now they're upset about that. And so they want to go back and they want to get the person who caught them with the hand in the cookie jar. And in this case, they're turning their attention over to the FTC. And they're just saying, well, now the FTC, which regulates communications, is saying that maybe Elon gave private access to these two journalists to data in a company that he owns because it makes him look bad. And so they're now going to unleash the furor of the FTC to go after Elon and Twitter and all the journalists because they're saying that maybe their investigation gobbled up some information about other Americans. Let's listen.
And that there's something going on between congressional Republicans and Elon Musk. Mr. Chairman, Americans can see through this. Musk is helping you out politically, and you're going out of your way to promote and protect him and to praise him for his work. This isn't just a matter of what data was given to these so-called journalists before us now. There are many legitimate questions about where Musk got the financing to buy Twitter. We know this is because at the first hearing, the chairman claimed that big
Did you see those two? They were just mocking her openly in Congress. These so-called journalists, these two people in front of us who don't even know how to write. And they call themselves journalists. What are they on Twitter? What do they have, a Substack or something like that? Who are these people in front of us? And Matt Taibbi and Schellenberger, they look at each other. These are like two of the best journalists in the country. Some of the most well-known in the whole country. Many best-selling books. Many people consider them to be the most independent in the whole world. And they have been chosen for that reason. Considered to be independent. They're not aligned with any one of these major entities. And she says, these so-called journalists. And these two guys, they look at each other like, can you believe this lady? All right.
Him for his work. This isn't just a matter of what data was given to these so-called journalists before us now. There are many legitimate questions about where Musk got the financing to buy Twitter.
Taibbi's face, man. He's like, look at that face right there. Who the heck is this woman?
The financing to buy Twitter. We know this is because at the first hearing, the chairman claimed that big government and big tech colluded to shape and mold the narrative and suppress information and censor Americans. This is a false narrative. We're engaging in false narratives here, and we are going to tell the truth. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. I would just point out the consent decree was in our report. We offered your staff also the opportunity to review the FTC letters. You have not come over to review those letters. Third, the idea that I believe both of these individuals who are getting ready to testify, I believe they're both Democrats. The idea that two journalists who happen to be Democrats.
Did you not give that offer at 8 o'clock last night?
Now. Your time was ended.
Neither of us are in time.
I don't think they're here to help us politically. I think they're here to tell us the truth. And oh, by the way, the first FTC letter to Twitter after the first set of Twitter files, the very first question was, who are the journalists you're talking to? And you guys don't care. You don't care.
You
don't
care
want
about
the
the
you don't want the
2011
American people to see.
consent decree?
You don't want the American people to see what happened, the full video, transparency. You don't want that, and you don't want two journalists who have been named personally by the Biden administration, FTC, in a letter.
The Biden administration.
And you're saying they're here to help us.
FTC.
They're here to tell their story. And frankly, I think they're brave individuals for being willing to come after they've been named in a letter from the Biden FTC.
Is this your question time now?
No, I'm responding to your ridiculous statements you made in your opening statement.
All right, that's our Congress going at each other right there. So, all right, well, hopefully they get to the bottom of that. Maybe they should arm wrestle or something like that. Jim Jordan, they should wrestle. Yeah, Jim Jordan's a state champ. I'll see how that goes. All right, so that is what's taking place now. The final exchange is the exchange heard around the world. This is Representative Garcia. We're saving it for last for a reason. Now, this is a long one. It's worth every bit of it because this lady has no idea what she's talking about. Now, this is an interesting exchange because I don't know what this woman's background is. I'll take a look at it when she's playing, when this is playing. But she's kind of trying to go at this like she's a prosecutor. But the problem with this whole phrase, with this whole exchange, is these guys, many of their sources, okay, are literally the government. Like they got the source from from Twitter, right? They got the access to the files from Twitter, but the emails are from FBI agent Elvis Chan. We had Executive Office of the Presidency, that guy over there. Many of them are emails literally from the US government at state.gov, at FBI.gov, all of them. So when they're beating these guys up for their sources, they're asking for, I know what they're asking for. They're asking for the information that they got from Elon and from Twitter. But all of the information that they're posting about, it generally involves a lot of government officials and government entities. So they're beating them up about their own data that just happened to be exposed because Elon published this whole thing. It's like bizarro world. It's crazy. So we got to go through it. Let's do it.
Mr. Taibbi, I want to follow up a little bit on the ranking member's questions. When was the first time that Mr. Musk approached you about writing the Twitter files?
Again, Congresswoman, that would.
I just need a date, sir.
But I can't give it to you, unfortunately,
that's a source,
because this is a question of sourcing, and I don't give up. I'm a journalist. I don't reveal my source.
It's a question of chronology.
Okay.
No, that's a question
because
of source.
You earlier said that someone had sent you through the internet some message about whether or not you would be interested in some information.
Yes, and I refer to that person as a source.
So you're not going to tell us when Musk first approached you?
No.
Again, Congresswoman, you're asking me to you're asking a journalist to reveal a source.
So then you consider Mr. Musk to be the direct source of all this?
No, now you're trying to get me to say that he is the source. I just can't answer your question.
Well, he isn't.
Look
If you're
at Goldman.
telling me you can't answer because it's your source.
This is Goldman. This guy basically bought himself a Congress seat. He's worth like a couple $100 million, and so he just dumped it all into a Congress seat and won it. And these two people, they have a difficult time understanding what the word source is or how that works.
Is the source. I
Well,
just can't answer your question.
Or he isn't.
Look at him.
If you're telling me you can't answer because it's your source, well, then the only logical conclusion is that he is in fact your source.
No, that's not how that
free to conclude
works.
that.
Yeah.
Well, sir, I just don't understand. You can't have it both ways, but let's move on.
Yeah,
'cause
let's
No,
do
he
it.
can. He's a
No,
journalist.
he can't, because either Musk is the source and he can't talk about it, or Musk is not the source. And if Musk is not the source, then he can discuss
No one
his
has yielded. The
conversations with
gentlelady's out
source.
of order. You don't get
And
to
she's
speak
out of
every
order
time.
What is she saying? If Musk is not the source, then he can't talk about the source? Does she think that it's just a Musk privilege?
He's not
he's
recognized. The
interrupted.
gentlelady's not
Mr. Chairman,
recognized.
You're not recognized.
my
Mr.
time.
He has not
Mr.
said
Chairman,
that.
I don't-
No, you're
What
not.
he has said is he's not going to reveal his
You're not
source, and the
recognized.
fact that
I did not
Democrats
yield
are
my time
pressuring
to
him
the
to do
chairman
so
or
is
the
such a
We're not.
violation.
We're asking him about his conversations with
The
Musk.
gentlelady has not yielded you time. You don't
I
get
have
to
not
just talk
yielded
over her.
I
time
reserve
to
my time.
anybody. I want to reclaim my
I
time.
reclaim my
and I would
time.
ask the chairman to give me back some of the time because of the interruption. Mr. Chairman, I am asking you if you will give me the seconds that I lost.
We will give you that 10 seconds.
You got
Thank
it,
you.
Garcia.
Now, let's talk about another item that when you responded to the ranking member, you said that you had free license to look at everything, but yet you yourself posted on your I guess it's kind of like a web page. I don't quite understand what Substack is.
Yeah, it's a web. Yeah.
That
Doesn't have any idea what a Substack is. She's asking questions about a Twitter hearing. Oh, we're doomed. We're doomed.
what I can say is that in exchange for the opportunity to cover a unique and explosive
website.
story, I had to agree to certain conditions. What were those conditions? She asked you that question and you said you had none, but you yourself posted that you had conditions.
No, the conditions, as I've explained multiple times.
No, sir, you've not explained. You told her in response to her question that you had no conditions. In fact, you kind of used the word license, that you were free to look at all of them, all 100,000 emails.
The question was posed, was I free to write about?
Sir, did you have any conditions?
The condition was that we published
Sir,
on
did you
Twitter.
have the conditions, yes or no? A simple question.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, could you tell us what conditions those were?
The conditions were an attribution, sources at Twitter, and that we break any news on Twitter.
But you didn't break it on Twitter. Did you send the file that you released today to Twitter first?
Did I send the?
Sir, I'm
Actually, I
asking you
did. Yes.
today.
Yeah.
Did you send it to Twitter first?
The Twitter
That was
files
one of the
thread?
conditions? Yes or no, sir?
The Twitter files thread actually did come out first.
But sir, you said earlier that you had to attribute all the sources to Twitter first.
Oh my
What
gosh.
you released today, did you send that to Twitter first?
No. I posted.
Oh my gosh. I think if you listen to this clip, I'm pretty sure I just heard Goldman whisper that to him. Does anybody else have headphones on? Oh my gosh. I just heard him whisper. All right, listen to this. All right, my headphones friends. This is so embarrassing. I didn't catch this the first time around. This is Goldman, okay? He whispers into her. Listen to this. He whispers into her. He posted it on Twitter. He posted it on Twitter. She's asking him if he sent the sources to Twitter because she doesn't even know what a Substack is. So he just posted it to Twitter. And so she's asking him if he sent his sources to Twitter. And he's like, yeah, I posted it. Yeah, I did. I did send it to Twitter. I posted it. Listen to this. Listen.
Attribute all the sources to Twitter first. What you released today, did you send that to Twitter first?
No.
Oh my gosh, it is there. He put it on Twitter. I'm going to turn this volume up. Listen, we're going to blast this up. Headphones, sorry about this. Let's listen. He put it on Twitter. He says it right here.
What you released today, did you send that to Twitter first?
No. I posted it on Twitter.
First, sir. Or did you give it to the ranking member, to the chairman of the committee or the staff of the committee first?
Well, that's not breaking the story. That's
He's
giving.
coaching
Yes,
her.
I did give.
So you gave all the information that you did not give to the Democrats. You gave it to the Republicans first. Then you put it on Twitter?
Actually, no. The chronology is a little bit confused.
Well, then
It's more or
tell
less
us
the
what the
same time.
chronology was.
I believe the thread came out first
Where?
on Twitter.
On Twitter.
On Twitter. So then you afterwards gave it to the Republicans and not the Democrats.
It's because I'm submitting it for the record as my statement.
Did you give it to them in advance?
I gave it to them today.
You gave it to them today, but you still have not given anything to the Democrats. Well, I'll move on. And I want
He should have just said, well, you guys got it when I press publish on Twitter. That's how Twitter works. When I press publish, everybody gets it, including you. You should try it. Get an account. You'll see.
to ask Mr. Schellenberger the same question, sir. When did you first visit with or get contacted by Mr. Musk?
I'm not going to reveal my sources, but like I said, I was invited by Barry Weiss.
I'm not asking for sources, sir. I'm just asking for chronology. When did you first make contact with Mr. Musk?
I don't know the exact date.
Was it?
It was December.
2020?
It was December.
December of, well, there's a lot of Decembers in history.
December of last year.
Which December?
December of last year, ma'am.
Last year, the 22?
Yes.
All right. Now, in your discussion, in your answer, you also said that you were invited by a friend, Barry Weiss.
My friend Barry Weiss.
Yeah, Barry.
So this friend works for Twitter, or what is her?
She's a journalist.
Sir, I didn't ask you a question. I'm now asking Mr. Schellenberger a question. Please
Yes,
do
ma'am.
not
Barry Weiss is
interrupt.
a journalist.
I'm sorry, sir.
She's a journalist.
She's a journalist. So you work in concert with her?
Yeah.
Do you know when she first was contacted by Mr. Musk?
I don't know.
You don't know. So you're in this as a threesome?
Oh my gosh.
There was many more people involved than that.
There was many more
Whoa,
people
good
involved.
for him.
Are you being paid?
Oh, wow. Good for him. Wow. It wasn't a threesome. Many more people involved. That's out of control. Wow. It's crazy.
You know, when she first was contacted by Mr. Musk?
I don't know.
You don't know. So you're in this as a threesome?
No way. That's amateur.
There was many more people involved than that.
There was many more people involved with it. Are you being paid to be here
Good for
today,
him.
either through consulting fees?
Good for
Having
him.
contribution to your
Absolutely
next
not.
run?
Gentlelady's
Absolutely
You
time
have
is,
an interview
gentlelady's
scheduled after
time
this
is
hearing?
expired.
Absolutely
Oh,
not.
good for
Gentlelady's
these
time
guys.
is expired.
Look
Thank
at these
you.
people. They're all laughing back here. They're laughing their
I
butts
don't know
off.
what to say other than I
Oh,
recognize the
so
gentleman
funny.
from North Dakota for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll yield my 5 minutes
Oh,
to you.
I appreciate the gentleman yielding.
So fun. All right, man. So he is just giving it right back to them. Yeah, a lot more than 3, lady. All right. You know, I do hope I get called into Congress for some reason to testify. Hopefully, you know, it's for something like that. You know, get called in there and get to just sort of duke it out with these people who don't even know what a Substack is, who doesn't even know what a Twitter is. Did you send your sources to Twitter? Well, yeah, I posted the whole thread on there. Well, who'd you send it to? To Twitter. Yeah, I know, but who? And when did you send it? Today. But did you send it to us? Yeah, I did, because it's on Twitter. But we didn't get it. Well, did you check my Twitter thread? Well, what is a Substack to you, sir? And is there something above the stack also? And to the sides? Do you have side stacks as well? Very, very curious. All right, so we have some of the dumbest people in Congress in charge of our government. And of course, we will continue to cover it. That, my friends, wraps it up on the day, on this lovely Friday, with that stellar wisdom. And so we are done. We will see what you have to say about all of this from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Let's see what you have to say about all this nonsense from YouTube, from Rumble, from our friends over on Twitter, because there's, I'm sure, a lot of reaction to this madness and insanity. And let's see what some of it is. We'll get it queued up right now. Jonah Ryan just sent in a nice super chat, which we'll take a look at here in a quick second as soon as my screen loads, if it ever loads, which I would like it to, because we're in the middle of a live stream right now. Would be convenient if it booted up here for us. Here it is. We had a couple nice ones come in. Thank you, everybody. This one was from Voice of the People. Says this will be used to go to war with China, even though it's our fault. I'm tired of the lies. We always cause the problems and then use war to justify causing the problems. When will we focus on people here? From Voice of the People. Yeah, you know, Voice of the People, I'm sort of with you on that one. I'm not in the camp that this is all China's fault. I mean, we see some very strong evidence of collusion here between the U.S. government, and they're all trying to point the fingers over there. And, you know, I don't think that the U.S. government is without fault in any of this, as far as we can tell. And I'll tell you this, the consequences of this pandemic, those all came from our government, all of them. All the lockdowns, all the mandates, all the printing of the money, all the new insanity, all of it came from them. Chinese didn't do any of that. So we've got another one from Voice of the People. He says, off the stream, look up those things, look up these things from the website and tell me that those symptoms don't sound familiar. Also says that, I will look those up. I will look those up, Voice of the People. I'm not going to say those words because of the YouTube censors. They flag those words, you know, but I will certainly look those up. I actually already did on the screen over there. I saw your thing come in. So we had that one. Hey, John McGarvey just looked up, just sent in some memberships. John McGarvey. Thank you, John. John is bringing over some new members, and Zulu did too. Holy moly. And Curtis Bartle. It's been crazy over there. All right. So Curtis Bartle. Thank you, Curtis. And thank you, Zulu. Let's welcome some of our new members. Holy moly. All right. I can't pop this out. Wait, yes, I can. Oh my goodness, this is cool. I didn't even know I could do this. Wow, I'm learning things every day. So here is what we've got from our very generous friends. And so we have, for members, we have extra morning shows, morning headlines that we attend to. And so if you want to become a member, you can. Join us on watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Join us on YouTube. Click the join button. But we've got a bunch of new people who are going to be joining us, courtesy of John. Welcome to Jesse, to Dan, to Mr. Null, to Ernie, to Lost Gypsy, to Miranda, to Ray J, to Gary. They're all coming in on our members-only morning streams. We'll do it one tomorrow morning, so hopefully we see you guys there. And don't forget to grab the Telegram link, which is in the community tab. You'll see a members-only community tab post. Grab the Telegram link and join us over there. And thank you very much, John. John and Zulu have been filling up the memberships, man, over on our morning chats. We're grateful. Zulu sent one in here. Jay, Jennifer, and Peter, also welcome to you. We had B Train, Vote Justin Out is coming in, courtesy of Zulu. Ian, Julie, Mary, Paypig, and your boy Roy Boy. What's up, your boy? And so this is the rest of the YouTube chat. Let's see who else is in the chat. I didn't know that I could pop this out. How cool is this? All right, so we got Playing Hookies in the house. Jesse Wilson's in the house. Good to see everybody. Now, Fred Pedamonte is also here. He says, Rob, Johnny said, holy moly, the scale is even. It is. Look at that right back there. Look at that scale. Perfect. I got petrified, Fred. I mean, I saw Johnny was upset about it, and I thought, man, he's got uranium. He's got COVID. He knows all about furin cleavage sites. I think he's got the Epstein list. And I thought, I better go get that thing fixed. So I got a level out, and I got my laser level and my real level. And I was back there for about 3.5 hours, but I think it looks good. He says, about effing time. Whew. He said, tell Rob I said thanks. I'm going to FedEx him some small smallpox. See, I told you. He says, I'm going to FedEx him some smallpox that Peter Daszak gave me. See? Yeah, I know it. Which is good. I mean, smallpox, can we deal with that now these days? I thought he was going to send me something worse. You know, that's probably like the nice gift. That's the nice gift. You know, I'll just have to deal with it. Thanks, Johnny, I guess. I'll be looking out for it. Gonna have to buy an incinerator and a biohazard suit. All right. Well, that's from Fred and Johnny. Thanks to Fred and Johnny. We had another one from Jonah. Says confession through projection. Dems pay witnesses. I'm not sure exactly what that was referencing, but it's yeah, I'm not sure what that was what that was referencing. But there was the first segment that we had about the doctors who just flipped their opinion after they met with Fauci, and then they suddenly got a bunch of extra money on top of it. Weird how that works. Where does all that money come from? Where does it all go? What's it all for? Who knows? But it's convenient that people change their opinions so easily and quickly. Curtis Bartle, thank you, Curtis, says you are amazing. Well, thank you, Curtis. That's a very nice one. Thank you. Says you're amazing. Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate you, my man. I appreciate you. And thank you for the You Are Amazing sticker. I feel the same way. Newbie of Death Review Stuff is here. Says Lime Green Shirt Day. Yeah, baby. It's Lime Green Shirt Day, or also known as Foam Green Friday. It's Foam Green Friday. It's Seafoam Green. Is it Seafoam Green? Or I thought it was a chartreuse, newbie, but maybe it's not. Lime Green's good. Lime Green Shirt Day. Voice of the People says, if you want, I can send you all my findings on what I asked you to look up, including the clots. I just need somewhere to send it. Yeah, send it to my email, actually. I mean, I check my email. I try to respond to everybody. There's 1 or 2 people that I have not responded to yet because I have some action items associated with those. However, send it to robert@spotlightlawyer.com. That's my email. Send it right over there. I'll get it. And I'll take a look at it. You can send it over there. And thank you very much, Voice of the People. I'd love to look at it. And maybe that would be a nice, sort of a Rumble only type of a stream. Hey, guess who joined us as a member? Karen M. Welcome to Supporter. We're grateful to have you. Yeah, we're going to see you tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow morning. We do extra streams. We do extra. It's like a morning show, really, is what it is. And so if you want to come and join us, we would love to have you. And I think, am I also able to pop out the Rumble chat? This is out of control. I just learned something new today. This whole world is just becoming just amazing. All right, who's in the house? We got Janek is in the house. Millie says, thanks, Rob. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Janek says, good show, Rob. Thanks, Janek. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the nice compliment. Nick Danger says, I hope everyone has an enjoyable weekend. Peter tags here. Yeah, Eric Scorpio. Yeah, we talked about Silicon Valley Bank this morning in our morning stream. Pretty brutal. And we were looking at the market cap and how much money just evaporated. We were doing the analogy of like, if it's an $80 billion of liquidity that's just gone, it's like Target just gone, like the whole company gone. Oh, man. Jacob Castro says that Clinton's going to find out about Johnny. I don't doubt that at all. And so we have all of our Rumble friends. We're grateful for you guys. Thank you for watching us over there. Let's say hello to our Twitter friends before we go over to locals for our after party. And of course, if you're a YouTube member, join us for the after party, but you got to grab the Telegram link. So make sure you're grabbing that so you can head on over and join us. All right, we are going over to Twitter to say hello. We have 3 viewers over there, which is pretty crazy for a Friday, to be honest. Absolutely nuts that we have so much going on over on Twitter. Now, V says, remember, elections are a popularity contest. Smart people aren't popular. Rich or poor people eagerly create their own problems. Rich or poor people eagerly create their own problems. That's some good wisdom in there. Yeah, having problems is sort of a state of mind. Yeah. And V's given us some metrics here. Yeah, we're getting a good showing on Rumble, man. We're getting some good activity on Rumble. Like I said, I'm grateful for everybody on Rumble, YouTube, and we've got 7 on Twitter, which is great. We're boosting up on Twitter, man. We're boosting it up. We're almost in double digits again. I must have said something wrong on Twitter. We were at double digits, and now we're not at double digits anymore. And we got some of the shirt top any topless images that are on Twitter. I just tend not to share those, but they are there if you're looking for those. We got some Mitch McConnell jokes, which we'll leave. I get it, but we'll leave. Hopefully he's okay. Salt Farmer is here. Says my 2 favorite lawyers, Shazam, Rob and my cousin Vinny, in a Shazam outfit. I like it. Thank you very much for that one, Salt Farmer. Good to see you over there. Palmy Nose in the house, laughing at that one. Our friend at Sleepy Dog Lee is on Twitter. Good follow over there. He says, my new concern with Miss Garcia, the lady who we were talking about, who was talking about threesomes in Congress. He says, my new concern with Miss Garcia is her dirty mind and or her willingness to go low. Dirty any way you slice it. Dirty girl. Threesomes? Too funny. Yeah, and I don't know if Schellenberger was trying to turn it into an orgy joke, but he kind of did, Kind of did. It's kind of funny. Palmy No says, Jim Jordan wrestles well in the political arena. He's taking these clowns to the mat, and the tournament just got started. Bet you wish you could have a go, huh? Says Paul. Just shows he's a mediator. Need more like him. Yeah, I'd wrestle. I'd hop in there and wrestle Jim Jordan. That'd be a ton of fun. Andy says Antifa is trending again. That's not good. They're always trending again. Here we go. Donna got a screen grab from the show. Yeah, that's me pointing at him. He's whispering in there. He's whispering to her. He's saying, no. He didn't send it to Twitter. He posted it on Twitter. Adam says, Rob's evil laugh after promoting the CDC cracked me up. Yeah. The government needs to claw back my assets that Fauci got. Jenny 1B's over there. We got Elon's talking about Jacob Chansley over there from our friend TJ. All right. And so Jenny B's over on Twitter. All right, my friends. And so those are our friends over on Twitter. If you're not already on Twitter, there's a bunch of good people to follow and connect with before and after the show. And so, of course, we also want to thank our now we're on gosh, it's Friday. You can tell, huh? I also want to thank, as I close this up, we had some tips come in. Oh my goodness. Everybody's so generous today. Thank you, everybody. Some tips coming in over on Locals, which is where we're going for our after party in just a short, quick minute. But I wanted to share. Why is this not working? Okay, this is about as big. Oh, here it is. Calm and free. Actually, that just went away. Okay, so here was, for some reason, my Locals is being a little bit wonky right now. Okay, so the Locals, I'm doing a refresh on the Locals thing, so hopefully this works. Only some of these are showing up right now. I don't know why. So Zutral says, wonderful show, Rob. Thank you. And a great week too. Yeah, we did have a wild week. We covered a lot of stuff here this week. And I appreciate everybody being here and for all of your generosity on the program. To Zootral, we had another one from Patricia. Says, how cool is it that this song is about to go #1? In 6 hours, Trump recites the Pledge of Allegiance as a choir sings. I think Julie Kelly posted something about that. Yeah. Is that on the Apple Store? So if you're inclined and on the Apple Store, you might want to, it's going to #1. Help that song get up to #1 if you're inclined to do that. Adesia is here. Says, fun Friday, Rob. Good to see you, Adesia. And thanks for the tips. Thanks for sending that one in. Now, there were a couple others that came in, and they're just not showing up on my screen right now for whatever reason. Here they are. This one came in. John, I see your message. I'll answer that in a short minute. Thank you for sending that one in. We had this one from Jigum. Says, not able to make today's show. Oh, no. Says, had way too much fun hanging out with John McGarvey on Telegram. And now I have to make up for time. So you were hanging out. Uh-oh. Did we lose? Oh, wait. Okay, so yeah. So we're going to have a little bit of a thing here. Yeah. So not able to make today's show, was chatting with McGarvey, had a great conversation on Telegram. Now I have to make up for it. Anyway, someone asked for this. I think John Allen. So here you go. So that's, oh, that's great. Yes. Okay. So that's me. That's me trying to do math. It's like something short circuits up there. This is from Geegum Geegum, the meme smith, our locals meme smith. That's how it freezes and just something shatters in my brain. Too funny. That's really good. You're super talented, Geegum. Very, very cool. And you got it just right. My brain does actually fry open like that. Calm and Freeze here says, happy Friday, watchers. This was a big week for the winning team. Thanks for shining the spotlight twice a day, week after week, rain or shine, Rob. Enjoy the weekend. That's a nice message, Calm and Free. Thank you. Yeah, we try, we have a lot of fun. I love shining with you guys. It's a ton of fun. And it was a good week. There are some weeks it can be totally demoralizing. And then there are other weeks you're like, all right, baby, we got some mojo back and we're seeing some good progress. And we're excited about that. We had American Granny, we had Adesia, Zootral, and Patricia. And of course, those are our friends on Locals. We are going over to Locals in just a short, quick minute. In fact, as soon as we're done here, we're going to head on over there. And if you're on YouTube as a YouTube member, join us on Telegram, where the show will continue there. But other than that, my friends, I think we are done on the day. And so before we wrap it up, let me give you that web address one more time. It's at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Or if you're a member on YouTube, grab the Telegram. Also, don't forget to check out our friends over at fieldofgreens.com, where you can get your real organic superfood and be healthy. The vegetables want to be eaten. The green energy is going to make you feel like you're just bursting. You just can't, you're going to get so much stuff done and just look so good. And it's going to be great. And so go to fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to use code Robert to save yourself 15% off. Also, want to shout out my former law firm, the amazing people over at the R&R Law Group. Going to be a busy weekend. If you know anybody who is charged with a crime in the state of Arizona, they're the team that can help. 480-787-0394, online at rrlawaz.com. Also, want to thank the mods who mod down the fort for us. We have Vientikis, Prime, K-Bean in the house, Just Cause. We've got Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Geomancy Games, Zach Nichols, and John Allen. Also want to shout out our friend Paul at Sleepy Dog Lee, one of our meme smiths, along with Geegum Geegum over on Locals. We're grateful for them as well. And so that is it for us today, my friends. We did have a busy week, and so we'll be back tomorrow for our members streams, and then we'll unplug a little bit from politics over the weekend, and then we're going to come back here on Monday to do it all again. And it's going to be another busy week. There's going to be a lot more to attend to, and I hope to see you here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, a beautiful weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Make it a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.